Guys, we have an urgent information coming out. Check this one out. Russia issues new nuclear warning as NATO tensions flare. All right, do me a favor, guys. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell. Thank you again for your support. It says here Russia believes some NATO members, in particular Poland, wants to abandon restrictions on the deployment of nuclear in their countries. Oh man, this is not good. Which would aggravate strategic risk and tensions. Once again, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria said. That's not looking good. At the same time, Russia arms itself with nuclear caliber missiles, large batch ordered. I just posted this video not too long ago. The link will be in the description box. Look at this one here. Once again, the world's greatest fear coming true. Russians to receive very powerful missiles with nuclear warheads. And I want to show you one more thing here. Look at this one here. The UK will provide Ukraine with over 5,000 missiles. 5,000 new missiles ahead of winter. This is coming out from Prime Minister Starmer. The question is, what kind of missiles? Can it be a mix? Can it be some Tomahawks involved? Could it be some, again, Taurus, the German missiles, or Storm Shadow? We don't know, but one thing I tell you guys, there's a lot of military equipments are being moved left and right. All right, guys, before I start, for those of you that want to send us letters, a prayer request, you can send it to me, US Santiago, or my wife, Jessica Santiago, at 3432 US Highway 19. Number 2, Holiday, Florida, 34691. And for those of you that want to contribute to the channel, we do have the Cash App link and a PayPal link in the comments box and also the description box. Thank you again for your support, guys. Your support is what keeps us on air. I really appreciate it. So once again, it seems like you have multiple NATO members. They want nukes. And again, there's some restriction that was put in place by multiple countries that certain lands in Europe cannot have nukes. Poland, that's way too close. So if Poland have nukes, I mean, that's way too close to Russia. So it says here, Maria comments highlight the bare concerns about NATO amid heightened tensions over Ukraine and the collapse of arms control frameworks like the INF Treaty, raising fears of a renewed arms race and strategic miscalculation. This is very sad. So in other words, we are moving backwards. We are basically going back to the 50s and 60s. Again, you know, back then, well, again, they used to do it back in the 50s and 60s here in the US. Every school had like the nuclear drill. You know, they used to teach the young ones to get under your desk and stuff like that because of the Soviet Union and all that. But it seems like we are heading back to that time. Right now, Ronald Reagan and I forget the former Soviet Union guy, they're probably rolling in their grave right now. All the hard work they put in for nothing. We are basically going back in time. So Maria said the Polish officials had appealed to the sleeping giant in an attempt to lure Washington into a venture regarding the deployment of U.S. nuclear on Polish territory. Man, that is... Just imagine that. I'm here thinking maybe Emmanuel Macron could possibly give some of the nukes to Poland. They have like 300. And I think Emmanuel Macron has offered to spread some of those nukes throughout Europe. Now, by resorting to such moves, formerly non-nuclear NATO members once again demonstrate their defiant disregard for the Treaty of the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Equipment, she told a briefing as reported by Russian state-owned news agency TASS. It says here, it should not be excluded that some of them, which are still observing national restrictions regarding the deployment of nuclear on their territory, may completely abandon their obligation in the future, she said. Now, Maria also said that this month, annual NATO nuclear deterrence exercise, Steadfast Noon, which involves 14 alliance members and up to 60 aircraft, was deeply destabilizing. Now, she said that this theme and the corresponding capability of the NATO countries will lead to further aggravation of strategic risk and increased tensions. That's crazy. 60 aircraft. Just for this NATO nuclear deterrence exercise. It says here, the bear, the Russians, again, follow me with the code words here. For those of you in TikTok, I use code words here on YouTube because this platform is really strict. All right, so the bear deputy foreign minister, Sergei, warned on Wednesday that the hostile policy of NATO countries could lead to a head-on clash between nuclear powers. This week, the U.S. commander-in-chief postponed a planned meeting with Putin in Budapest to discuss the war in Ukraine, and Putin oversaw a major nuclear exercise involving intercontinental ballistic equipments, strategic bombers, and submarine-launched ballistic missiles. It says here you have NATO Secretary General Mark, and he was in the White House about, I think, 2-3 days ago. That was the same day that the U.S. debt hit $38 trillion. The same day that Donald slapped sanctions on the bear. All that happening in one day. That's crazy. NATO Secretary General Mark, ahead of this month's exercise, said, "We need to do this because it helps us to make sure that our nuclear deterrent remains as credible and as safe and as secure and as effective as possible. It also sends a clear signal to any potential advisory that we will and can protect and defend our allies against all threats." Once again, you have Rybakov during a webinar hosted by the Center for Energy and Security Studies said, among the relevant negative factors, we highlight the hostile policy of NATO countries, which can lead to a head-on clash between nuclear powers, as well as the development by this self-proclaimed nuclear alliance of schemes and means of the so-called joint nuclear missions, including the expansions of geography of the U.S. nuclear presence in Europe and the circle of countries to which the delivery of American special munitions to target its delegated. So what happens next? Well, you have the bear. Russia has signaled a potential withdrawal from remaining arms control treaties. And you have the alliances out there. NATO is intensifying its deterrence posture. Now, the U.S. commander has expressed frustration with Putin's refusal to move on his condition for a settlement of the war in Ukraine. But now we are getting all this information here, which I want to bring us some of these updates here. I want to see what's really going on with these 5,000 new missiles that the UK is talking about. Again, what kind of missiles are being, what type of missile being sent? That's the big question here. Give me a second here, guys. I'm trying to... Okay, so I found something here. Starmer said UK to accelerate program to produce 5,000 air defense missiles for Ukraine. That's a big number. That is a big number. 5,000 is a whole different ball game. UK Prime Minister has announced that his country is accelerating a program to produce over 5,000 missiles to strengthen Ukraine's air defense during the winter period. All right, so Starmer, following a meeting of the Coalition of the Willing in London, as reported by the European Pravda. The question is, hold on, give me a second. We are strengthening Ukraine's air defense to protect its civilians and its energy infrastructure, basically the power grid. I announced today that we are accelerating our UK program to provide Ukraine with more than 5,000 lightweight multi-role missiles. All right, so it seems like it's not going to be no Tomahawks in this batch. Starmer said that the program has created hundreds of jobs in Belfast, and they are working on producing a further 140 missiles to help Ukraine through the difficult winter. Now, he added that by the end of the year, the Coalition of the Willing is determined to take further action aimed at removing Russian oil and gas from the global market. Now, Russia said if that happens, oil prices around the world will skyrocket. It's going to hurt everyone. Starmer said that the U.S. has acted decisively with its sanctions and called on others to take these steps. Now, the UK Prime Minister also expects progress of the Bear Soviet assist and the unlocking of billions that will help finance Ukraine's defense. In addition, he called for increased military pressure on the Bear leader Putin through the continued provision of long range to Ukraine. Now, it was reported in the spring that Ukraine would receive over 5,000 Rapid Ranger LMM interceptor missiles and launch system for them. So it seems like it's going to be this here, guys. All right. Like I said, there's no Tomahawk in this batch, or, you know, Storm Shadows or Taurus and stuff like that. The most recent correlation of the Willing meeting held in early September brought together representatives of more than 30 countries across Europe and beyond. Okay, so that is the latest update. Starmer said that UK to accelerate program to produce 5,000 air defense missile for Ukraine. All right, so that's the latest updates when it comes to that. Give me a second here. Let me go back on X and see if there's any more updates. But the Bear sends a nuclear warning, another nuclear warning. Excuse me, guys. Trying to see if there's any more updates. Look at this one here. We have some more breaking news. Let me just fix this so you guys have a better view. Kiev Independent is putting out these information. All these info is reliable sources, all right? So ignore the negative comments in the comments box, guys. Ignore them. You guys already know. For those of you who do research, Kiev Independent is a reliable source. Also RT and all these other sources and stuff like that. So all these are reliable sources. Ukraine war latest. It says here France announces more fighter jets and also Aster missiles for Kiev. So again, it's not only the UK sending 5,000. Seems like France is sending some jets. At the same time, the Bear is getting their nuclear stuff. We need to continue to step up our military support for Ukraine. This is never going to end. This is never going to end. Air defense capacity, long-range capability, drones, an anti-drone system, Emmanuel Macron said. This is never going to end. These biblical wars is just never going to end. You know, at this point, I guess the sleeping giant just might as well just drop the hammer. Just say enough is enough. Let's go. Let's finish this. Whoever wins, get the territory. Just do it now. Stop playing games. Stop wasting time. This is never going to end. Like I said, I had to, and I said this a long time ago, Donald was not going to end this in 24 hours. It actually got a lot worse. And I'm not bashing the Donald. Again, I want people to understand that. But Donald couldn't stop the biblical war when it comes to Ukraine. And now we're about to get involved in this. Like I say, guys, it's just the only one that could end this biblical war is God. God could, harden the hearts of leaders and bring peace to many. These world leaders, including Donald, they need to get down to their knees and pray to the Father in heaven to intervene and bring peace. Solomon did it. Solomon did it. Others could do it too. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Till next time later. Peace.